The stars were bright in the black sky, but the quiet of space felt uneasy. CenaX sat in the cockpit of his small ship, the Vanguard, scanning the sensors. A distant alarm beeped, warning him of enemy fighters approaching. His heart pounded, but his hands were steady. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and CenaX trusted his skills. The ship shuddered violently. A laser blast struck the hull, and sparks flew across the control panel. CenaX gritted his teeth and maneuvered sharply. "Not today," he muttered, twisting the controls with precision. But the enemy was relentless. Another strike ripped through the ship. Warning lights flashed red. Systems failed one by one. CenaX's training kicked in, but even the best pilot could not outrun a swarm forever. The ship spiraled down toward a nearby planet, a rocky world far from human territory. CenaX braced himself as the Vanguard crashed into the uneven surface, skidding across jagged rocks. The impact threw him forward, and the air was filled with smoke and dust. When the shaking stopped, he was lying on the floor of the cockpit, his hands scraped but otherwise unbroken. He coughed and pushed himself up, surveying the wreckage. The ship was damaged beyond repair. The engines were dead, the hull cracked, and the weapons destroyed. CenaX's mind raced. He had to find shelter, and fast. This planet was known for its harsh conditions and dangerous wildlife. But before he could move, he noticed a figure moving in the distance. Through the haze, he saw a small armored form. She was unlike any alien he had seen in the human records. Her armor was scratched and scorched, and one of her limbs moved awkwardly. CenaX's instinct screamed that she was in danger, and he didn't hesitate. He approached carefully, keeping his hands visible and his movements slow. "Hey," he called softly. "I'm not here to hurt you. I can help." The alien girl froze. She turned toward him, her eyes wide behind the visor of her helmet. She was tall and lean, with a strong but graceful build. Her armor, though damaged, hinted at skill and strength. But it was her eyes that struck CenaX most. Sharp, alert, and wary. "You don't belong here," she said in a voice that was strong but cautious. Her words were accented, alien in a way that still felt understandable. "I could say the same," CenaX replied with a small smile, trying to ease the tension. "But we both just survived a crash. I can help you if you let me." She hesitated, scanning the wreckage around her. The planet was silent except for the distant groan of shifting rocks. Finally, she nodded reluctantly. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice softening slightly. "Do not make a mistake." "I won't," CenaX promised. "My name is CenaX. Let's get you out of here first." Lyra moved slowly, testing her injured leg. CenaX helped her, steadying her with careful hands. Her armor was heavy, and one joint in her leg was bent unnaturally. She winced, but did not speak. CenaX knew he had to work fast. He knelt beside her armor, inspecting the damage. "This is bad, but not impossible," he said, more to reassure himself than her. Sparks from his toolkit reflected in the rocky ground. "If we can fix this joint and reinforce your plating, you can move more freely." Lyra watched him carefully, her body tense. "Don't touch that part," she warned, sharply. "It is delicate." "I know," CenaX said calmly. "I'll be careful, just don't move." "Too near," she muttered, stepping back slightly. Her warning was clear. She did not trust him yet. CenaX chuckled softly. Humor, he knew, could help ease tension even in the worst situations. "I'll give you space," he said. "But some things I have to be close for." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue further. CenaX carefully removed the damaged plating, keeping his movements slow and precise. He adjusted the mechanical joints and rewired some of the armor's energy conduits. Each time he moved, Lyra flinched slightly, but she began to relax as she noticed his skill. "This is impressive," she said finally, her voice softer. "You work well under pressure." CenaX smiled. "Humans are good at surviving," he replied simply. "Sometimes we have to be." Minutes passed, and the sun of the alien planet began to dip behind jagged mountains. CenaX worked tirelessly, his focus unwavering. Slowly, the armor began to function properly again. The joint that had been broken moved smoothly and the plating was secure. Lyra tested it carefully, then gave him a small nod. Better, she admitted. But your methods? Unusual. CenaX laughed lightly. Unusual is my specialty. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to trust him even just a little. CenaX's calm, confident presence had shown her that humans were not just unpredictable creatures. They could be reliable, clever, and brave. The crash site was quiet again. CenaX and Lyra both knew the planet held dangers, from wild predators to hidden enemy patrols. But at least for now they had each other. And in that silence a bond began to form, not built on words alone but on actions, courage, and trust. CenaX packed the last of his tools and looked up at Lyra. "Ready to move?" he asked. Lyra nodded, testing her strength. "I am ready. But remember, stay careful." "I always am," CenaX replied, offering a reassuring smile. Together they stepped away from the wreckage. The harsh planet awaited them, full of dangers and mysteries, but CenaX and Lyra had survived the crash, and a human had proven that even in the strangest worlds, courage, skill, and heart could make all the difference. The adventure was just beginning. The alien planet stretched before them like a harsh, untamed wilderness. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground, and distant cliffs cast long shadows over the barren landscape. CenaX moved carefully, his eyes scanning the terrain for any danger. Lyra followed, her armor repaired but still heavy, her steps measured. "You move differently from me," Lyra said, watching him stride across the uneven ground. "Your balance, unusual." CenaX smiled lightly, adjusting his backpack of tools. "Humans have to adapt," he said. "We survive in strange places. You'll notice soon. You'll adapt too." Lyra narrowed her eyes at him. "I doubt it. I am trained for battle, not walking like you." "Battle or walking," CenaX replied, shrugging. "You'll find a way. You already survived a crash, didn't you?" She didn't answer immediately. The words were true, but pride kept her silent. CenaX respected that. He knew trust would come slowly, and that was fine. They reached a rocky plateau, where the wind howled around them, carrying the scent of minerals and dust. CenaX stopped and turned to Lyra. "Your armor feels good now, but I need to check one thing." Lyra tensed, crossing her arms over her chest. "I said, don't move." "I know," CenaX said gently. "Just a small adjustment. Trust me." She hesitated, then finally allowed him to step closer. CenaX examined the plating around her shoulder joint, making small tweaks with his tools. Sparks flew briefly but carefully, and the armor hummed softly as the systems restarted. "You are too close," Lyra whispered, stepping back slightly. CenaX chuckled softly. "I promise, nothing will happen. Just a few seconds." Lyra studied him, her sharp eyes noting every careful movement. She saw the precision in his hands, the calm in his expression. Slowly she relaxed. She could not deny it. This human was skilled, clever, and careful. "There," CenaX said after a moment. "All fixed. You should be able to move freely now." Lyra tested her arm, flexing and rotating carefully. The armor moved perfectly with her body. She looked at CenaX with a small nod, her respect growing. "Better than before," she admitted. "You are careful. I did not expect that from your kind." CenaX grinned. "Humans are full of surprises. You'll get used to it." For a moment, silence fell. The wind swept across the plateau and distant rocks tumbled down the cliffs. Then Lyra spoke softly. "Why help me?" CenaX paused, thinking. "Because no one deserves to be left behind, even strangers." Lyra's eyes flicked toward him, unsure what to make of the answer. Humans were different, strong, clever, and yet compassionate. She had been trained to rely on her own strength, not on others. And yet, something about this human made her reconsider. Before she could respond, a sudden rustle came from the rocks below. Both froze. CenaX motioned for her to stay silent. Out of the shadows, a large creature emerged. Its body was long and muscular, covered in rough scales. Sharp claws dug into the stone and its glowing eyes fixed on them. "Stay behind me," CenaX whispered. Lyra hesitated but obeyed. CenaX reached into his pack and pulled out a small flare, tossing it toward the creature. The light startled it, but it did not flee. Instead, it growled low, moving closer. CenaX's mind raced. He needed a plan. "Move slowly," he whispered, to Lyra. "We need to reach that ridge. I'll lead it away." The creature lunged, but CenaX was faster. He dodged nimbly, using his human reflexes to his advantage. Lyra watched, impressed despite herself. Humans were unpredictable in ways aliens often underestimated. CenaX's strategy relied on quick thinking, not brute strength. "Follow me," he called. Together they sprinted across the plateau. Rocks shifted under their feet and the creature pursued relentlessly. CenaX spotted a narrow path up the ridge and veered toward it. Lyra followed, her armor making a clanging sound but allowing her agility. At the last moment, CenaX triggered a small device from his pack, a net of energy lines that temporarily stunned the creature. It roared, thrashing, and they seized the chance to climb the ridge. Once safely above, they looked down. The creature lay motionless, confused by the trap. Lyra exhaled sharply, leaning against her repaired armor. "You saved me," she said, quietly. CenaX smiled, brushing dust from his hands. "Humans do what they must. You'd do the same for me, I think." The night on the alien planet was colder than CenaX had expected. The wind cut across the rocky plateau, carrying a scent of damp stone and strange vegetation. Lyra's armor glinted faintly under the twin moons, reflecting the dim light like a warning to any predator nearby. CenaX led the way, his eyes scanning every shadow, every movement. "This terrain is unfamiliar to me," Lyra admitted quietly. "I know battlefields, but not wild land like this." CenaX glanced back, smiling faintly. "Humans survive in strange worlds all the time. You'll adapt. We just have to stay alert." Lyra remained silent for a moment, then nodded. Despite herself, she found reassurance in his calm voice. Trust was growing, slowly but steadily, like a small flame in the darkness. The sound came first as a low rumble vibrating through the rocks. CenaX froze, crouching slightly, and held out a hand. "Quiet. Something is coming." Lyra stiffened, gripping the edges of her armor. "What is it?" CenaX didn't answer. His human instincts told him not to speak, not to alarm it. From the shadows of the rocks, a massive predator emerged. Its body was long and muscular, covered in thick, jagged scales. Its claws dug into the stone, leaving deep marks with every step. Glowing eyes scanned the plateau, fixing on them like a spotlight of danger. Lyra's hand went to her weapon instinctively, but CenaX placed a calm hand over hers. "Not yet. Watch, learn, and follow my lead." The creature roared, a sound that echoed off the cliffs. Its movement was deliberate, each step measured, its hunger clear. CenaX's mind raced. He had to protect Lyra, but fighting such a beast head-on would be suicide. "Move slowly behind me," he whispered. "I'll guide it away." Lyra hesitated. "You expect me to trust your plan? It could kill us." CenaX looked at her, his gaze steady. "It won't, trust me. We survive together or we don't survive at all." Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment, the tension between caution and trust wavered. She nodded, stepping carefully behind him. CenaX picked up a rock and threw it to the side. The creature's eyes snapped toward the noise, momentarily distracted. CenaX motioned to a narrow path leading up the ridge. "Now, move." They sprinted toward the ridge, the ground uneven beneath their feet. Lyra's repaired armor clanged slightly, but it allowed her agility. The predator followed, fast and relentless, its roar filling the canyon. CenaX ducked behind a boulder and pulled a small device from his pack. A net of energy lines shot out and wrapped around the creature's legs, momentarily stunning it. The predator thrashed, but CenaX didn't flinch. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her up the ridge. "This way. Keep moving." Lyra followed without question. She had seen his calm under pressure, his clever strategies, and she knew he could keep them alive. For the first time, she relied entirely on a human's judgment. At the top of the ridge, they paused to catch their breath. The creature lay tangled in the energy net, roaring and struggling. CenaX knelt to check its movements, ensuring it would not break free. Lyra stood behind him, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and admiration. "You are clever," she said softly. "I have never seen tactics like this." CenaX smiled faintly. "Humans often improvise. We make do with what we have and we think fast. That's why we survive." Lyra studied him closely. His calm, his courage, and his quick thinking were all traits she had never expected from humans. She felt a flicker of respect, something that went beyond survival. It was admiration. The predator thrashed one last time before retreating, confused and disoriented. CenaX allowed himself a small exhale. "Safe for now," he said. Lyra's eyes softened. "You saved me, not just from the crash, but from that beast." CenaX shrugged, brushing dust from his hands. "It's what humans do. We survive, and we help others survive too. You would have done the same." She looked away, uncertain. Pride kept her from fully expressing her thoughts, but the bond between them had strengthened. Trust was growing, built not on words but on action. CenaX had proven that humans were capable of courage, ingenuity, and compassion, even in the most dangerous situations. The night air was still, but they both knew this planet held more threats. CenaX pointed to a cluster of caves in the distance. "We can rest there. I can make a few more adjustments to your armor, and it will protect you even better." Lyra nodded, testing her strength. The repaired armor moved perfectly with her body. She had learned to rely on it, and more importantly on the human who had fixed it. As they moved toward the caves, the wind carried distant sounds, strange calls of creatures unknown to human ears. CenaX remained calm, scanning constantly. Lyra matched his pace, her trust in him growing with every step. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax, even if just slightly. A human had shown her that courage and skill could be combined with care and patience. That combination had kept them alive, and she realized that survival on this planet might depend not just on strength or armor, but on the bond forming between her and CenaX. The ridge stretched ahead, dark and challenging, but CenaX led confidently. He knew the dangers would not end tonight, but he also knew that together, they could face them. Trust, once earned, was stronger than any weapon. Lyra glanced at him, a faint smile breaking through her caution. She had no words for the feeling, but she understood it fully. She was no longer alone. And CenaX, walking beside her, felt the weight of responsibility, but also the quiet satisfaction of knowing that he had earned the first step of trust from a being as skilled and proud as Lyra. The adventure continued, but now it was shared. Two unlikely allies, one human, one alien, moving forward together, prepared to face whatever the wild world threw at them. The cave was dark and narrow, but it offered shelter from the harsh winds and the distant predators of the alien planet. CenaX and Lyra stepped inside cautiously, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone walls. Lyra tested the floor with her boot, ensuring there were no hidden dangers, while CenaX set down his pack and began inspecting his tools. "This place is better than sleeping outside," Lyra admitted quietly, her voice low. "It will keep us safe for the night." CenaX nodded. "Safety is the first step, then we think about the next move." He glanced at her armor, checking for any signs of damage from their earlier escape. "Your armor held well, but a few adjustments will make it more flexible for climbing and running." Lyra watched him work, intrigued by the human's calm efficiency. "You are very precise," she said, her tone almost admiring. "Even in danger, you do not rush." CenaX smiled. "Rushing gets people killed. Humans have learned that staying calm is often more important than acting fast." He tightened a joint in her armor and tested the movement. "There. Better than before. You should feel more agile." Lyra flexed her arm, nodding slightly. Yes, better. You are clever. CenaX chuckled softly. I try. For a moment they worked in silence, the only sounds being the soft hum of Lyra's armor and the scrape of CenaX's tools. Then Lyra spoke again. Tell me, why did you help me? You did not have to. I am an alien. We are not allies. CenaX looked up from his work, meeting her eyes. Because no one deserves to be left behind, even strangers, and I know what it feels like to be alone in a dangerous place. Humans help when we can. It's who we are. Lyra studied him for a long moment. His words were simple, but they carried weight. She had never expected a human to act with such care and thoughtfulness, especially when there was no personal gain. Slowly, she began to see humans in a new light. Not just strong or clever, but capable of something more. You are different, she said finally. Other humans I have met, they are loud, aggressive, impatient. You are patient. CenaX shrugged. Patience helps, and sometimes it keeps you alive. He looked around the cave. We should rest soon, but I have one more idea. It may help us find our way off this planet faster. Lyra tilted her head. What is it? CenaX reached into his pack and pulled out a small device, half human, half improvised. Wires and metal pieces protruded from it, but it was clearly functional. This is a signal amplifier, he explained. It can reach satellites or ships in orbit. We may be able to call for help, or at least signal someone we're alive. Lyra's eyes widened. You built this here? CenaX smiled faintly. I didn't build it from scratch, but I can modify it to work here. Improvisation is key. She watched him work, adjusting wires and powering circuits with careful precision. Sparks flew occasionally, but CenaX remained calm, his focus unwavering. Lyra felt a strange admiration growing. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also clever, quick-thinking, and resourceful. While CenaX worked, Lyra spoke quietly. You remind me of the stories from my people. Humans are always underestimated. They survive in impossible conditions. They adapt. CenaX looked up, a small grin on his face. That's true, and apparently you've heard some stories. Seems like humans do inspire awe, even from a distance. Lyra allowed herself a small smile, but quickly turned away. Do not think this means I trust you completely. I am still cautious. CenaX chuckled softly. Fair enough. I'd expect nothing less from a warrior like you. As the device hummed to life, a faint signal flickered on the display. CenaX nodded. It's working. Not full strength yet, but it's a start. Lyra leaned closer, curiosity overtaking caution. Your kind is remarkable. You face danger not with brute strength alone, but with cleverness. I can see why others respect humans. CenaX's smile faded into a thoughtful look. The next morning, the twin suns of the alien planet rose slowly over the jagged horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. CenaX and Lyra left their cave cautiously, moving toward higher ground. The terrain was rough, filled with sharp rocks and uneven paths, but both of them had learned to adapt quickly. CenaX led the way, constantly scanning for danger, while Lyra followed, her repaired armor gleaming in the morning light. We need to stay alert, CenaX said quietly. I can feel it. Something is watching us. Lyra's eyes narrowed, scanning. The cliffs. I agree. The predators yesterday were not the only threat. I sense others, intelligent ones. CenaX nodded. Then we must be ready. Keep your senses sharp and trust your instincts. They had not traveled far when the danger revealed itself. From a ridge above, a group of alien mercenaries appeared, their armor black and jagged, weapons aimed at them. Lyra froze, recognizing the symbols on their armor. These were not ordinary hunters. They were organized, skilled, and dangerous. CenaX didn't hesitate. Stay behind me. We can get through this, but we need strategy, not panic. Lyra followed without question, her trust in him stronger now than ever. CenaX scanned their surroundings, noting boulders, uneven terrain, and narrow paths that could be used to their advantage. The mercenaries advanced, shouting alien commands that Lyra translated quickly. "They want to capture me," she said, through clenched teeth. "They think I hold information valuable to their leaders." CenaX's mind raced. "Then we make it hard for them. We fight smart, not just hard." He quickly grabbed a few loose rocks and improvised a series of small tripwires connected to a portable device from his pack. When the mercenaries reached the traps, some were caught momentarily, giving CenaX and Lyra time to move strategically. Lyra watched in amazement. You think of everything," she said. "I never expected humans to improvise so quickly under pressure." CenaX grinned. "It's all about observation and quick thinking. The mercenaries may be stronger, but we have advantage if we use our minds." One of the mercenaries lunged toward Lyra, aiming to strike her down. CenaX acted without hesitation, using a small energy device to push the attacker back, creating a momentary shield. Lyra moved beside him, striking the assailant with precision. Together their movements were synchronized, human ingenuity and alien combat skill working in harmony. The fight escalated. CenaX used his tools to manipulate the terrain, causing boulders to shift and block certain paths while Lyra fought with deadly efficiency. Each move was calculated, avoiding unnecessary risk, but keeping the enemy off balance. "You are more capable than I imagined," Lyra admitted during a brief pause. "Humans can be very dangerous." CenaX chuckled, catching his breath. "Dangerous, yes, but clever first. We use our heads before brute force. You'll see, humans often survive against impossible odds." The mercenaries regrouped and charged again, but CenaX had prepared another trap. A makeshift energy net fired from a concealed device, tangling two attackers and slowing their advance. Lyra took advantage of the opening, striking precisely to disable their weapons. The final wave of mercenaries hesitated, clearly frustrated and confused by the humans' unconventional tactics. CenaX and Lyra exchanged a brief glance, silently agreeing to press the advantage. Together they moved as one, blending strategy, skill, and timing perfectly. Within moments, the mercenaries realized they were outmatched, not by strength alone, but by the combination of brains, agility, and courage, and they retreated, disappearing into the rocky cliffs, leaving CenaX and Lyra standing victorious. Lyra exhaled sharply, her body tense but exhilarated. "You saved me again, not with weapons alone, but with strategy. I have underestimated humans too long." CenaX smiled faintly, brushing dust from his hands. "It's not about underestimating. It's about adapting, thinking, and never giving up. That's what humans do." Lyra studied him for a moment, her expression softening. I trust you now. Completely. You have proven yourself. Not just with skill, but with courage." CenaX shook his head, smiling humbly. "Trust isn't given lightly. You earned it too, by following through, staying calm, and fighting when needed. Together we are stronger than either of us alone." The morning sun climbed higher, casting the land in bright light. CenaX checked their surroundings, ensuring no threats remained. Lyra flexed her repaired armor, testing its strength after the fight. "You are remarkable," she said quietly. "Not just for surviving, but for thinking. Humans are more than I imagined." CenaX nodded. "We survive, we think, and we help those who need it. That's how we move forward." For the first time since the crash, Lyra felt a sense of hope and confidence. She had faced danger, relied on a human, and survived. The experience had shown her that humans were capable of clever, brave, and reliable action. And more than that, she had seen how trust and teamwork could overcome overwhelming odds. "Where do we go now?" Lyra asked, her voice calm but alert. CenaX pointed toward a distant plateau. "We keep moving toward higher ground. From there, we might find a safe route off this planet, or at least a vantage point to plan our next move." Lyra nodded, trusting his judgment. Side by side, they continued their journey, moving carefully but confidently across the rocky terrain. The bond between them was stronger now, built through shared danger, skill, and trust. As they climbed, CenaX glanced at Lyra. "We've come a long way since the crash, and we'll go further, together." Lyra looked at him, a small smile breaking through her cautious exterior. "Yes, together." The planet was dangerous, and challenges still awaited. But CenaX and Lyra had proven that brains, courage, and teamwork could face even the most relentless threats. And as the suns rose higher, they moved forward with confidence, ready for whatever came next. The adventure was far from over, but for the first time both knew they could face it side by side, humans and aliens united by skill, trust, and courage. The plateau stretched before CenaX and Lyra, its rocky surface jagged but stable. From this height they could see the alien planet in all its harsh beauty. Crimson cliffs, deep valleys, and distant forests where strange creatures moved like shadows. The suns were high now, warming the rocky ground, but danger still lurked, in the distance. CenaX scanned the horizon, noting possible paths and hazards. "We should keep moving," he said. "From this vantage we might find a way off the planet, or at least somewhere safer to rest tonight." Lyra adjusted her repaired armor, testing its movement. "Yes, but I am ready now. No more hesitation." CenaX smiled faintly. "Good. Confidence helps, and you've earned it." They descended carefully, moving together in silent coordination. Every step had purpose. Every glance counted. They had faced predators, mercenaries, and impossible terrain, and now the trust between them was unshakable. Lyra followed CenaX's lead without question, and he watched her with a quiet pride. Humans and aliens could work together, and they had proven it. As they neared a rocky ridge, a sudden rumble shook the ground. Lyra froze, eyes wide, scanning the cliffs. CenaX instinctively crouched, hand on his tools, ready for action. Out of the shadows emerged a massive predator, larger and faster than the one from before. Its scales glinted under the suns, its claws dug into the stone, and its roar echoed across the plateau. "Stay calm," CenaX whispered. "We can handle this." Lyra nodded, moving beside him. Together, they had survived worse. CenaX quickly assessed the terrain, noting boulders, narrow paths, and potential traps. His human ingenuity kicked in. "Follow my lead," he said. They maneuvered strategically, using rocks and uneven ground to their advantage. CenaX pulled out a small device from his pack, setting a temporary energy trap. The predator lunged, caught momentarily in the device's net, thrashing violently but unable to break free immediately. Lyra struck at precise points, using her combat skills to keep the creature at bay. "You are incredible," Lyra said, eyes focused on the predator. "You're thinking, humans. I underestimated you." CenaX shook his head. "Brains first, strength second. Humans survive because we think fast and act smart." The predator roared, again, finally breaking free. It charged toward them, but CenaX was ready. He used another device to create a diversion, leading the creature into a narrow crevice where it could not move freely. Lyra followed his movements perfectly, striking at weak points when necessary. Together, they defeated the predator without a scratch, their skills and teamwork stronger than ever. Lyra finally allowed herself a small smile, admiring the human beside her. She had learned that trust was not just about words. It was about actions, courage, and reliability. CenaX had proven all three. The adrenaline faded, leaving them both, breathing heavily but triumphant. CenaX looked at Lyra, adjusting her armor one last time. "There, all set. You're stronger now than before, and your armor is perfect for this planet." Lyra flexed, moving fluidly. "Yeah, thanks to you, I trust you completely now, not just for survival, but as a companion." CenaX smiled warmly. "And I trust you. We've survived together, and that's what matters." The suns were beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. CenaX scanned the horizon again, spotting a distant plateau that looked stable and safe. "That's our next stop," he said. From there, we can signal for help, or at least plan the next move carefully. Lyra nodded, a faint smile on her lips. Good. Let us go. They marred together side by side, stepping carefully over